What's up, fam? Welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. Today, I am excited because I have a special guest that's doing something that I always wanted to do in my early years, but just couldn't because of these things right here. But anyway, it's another story. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, but he's a pilot um, for one of the major carriers, freight carriers, and it's been flying for a while. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to allow him to kind of share his story about becoming a pilot and sharing a little bit of that experience. And for those who are interested in flying, maybe be inspired to pursue the same career. So anyway, without further ado, Anthony Coleman is here with us today. Anthony, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad as well, man. I'm looking forward to hearing your story about becoming a pilot. So, yeah, let's get started. So, share a little bit about your background. How did you get into being able to fly?
Okay, well, yeah, long story to that, but I grew up in San Jose, California, military family. My father was Air Force, served in Vietnam. Um,
Oh,
I kind of grew up with a curiosity for mathematics, science, physics, things of that nature. Very curious kid. But my first image that I think inspired me to get into flying was my flight, a flight I had when I was a little kid. Our whole family traveled to St. Louis, Missouri, from San
hmm.
Jose, California, on a Lockheed L-1011, which is
Oh,
a really
wow.
old aircraft.
Yeah,
Named
you
myself.
going way back.
Yeah,
What that called the TriStar? TriStar, I think. Was that the TriStar?
I'm not
Something
sure
like
what that
that.
was called. It
Yeah.
may
Well,
have
anyway.
been. Yeah, it's way, 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 you know. But and this is also pre 9/11. So the first image I have of flying is being able to get on board the aircraft, and have the flight attendants take the children to the cockpit to talk to the pilots. So I actually had an opportunity to talk to the captain and to the first officer. And after I finished, a short conversation, I'm sure. But after I finished, the flight attendants handed me a pair of wings and
Oh,
a
yeah, I remember
book.
that.
Yeah. They also handed me a little book on how airplanes fly. And of course, I'm interested in physics and all that thing. So the entire flight, I read that book. So by the time I landed, I already knew how airplanes get airborne, and the physics of lift and gravity and all that stuff. And I'm 9, maybe 10 years old.
Yeah.
But that's my first memory. My second memory is my father, who was pretty influential in this whole process. Took me to the Air Force Academy one summer when I was a teenager. So I went to visit the campus, and it so happened that there was a formation of F-16 fighter jets
Ooh.
doing some practice maneuvers, and I saw one fly over us and go into afterburner. I was like, wow,
Ooh.
I'm so amazed by that. And I said, hey, one day maybe I can do that. And I think my dad said, yeah, if you're smart enough, one day you'll pilot. So those are the first images I have, and that kind of encouraged me to seek out a flying career. But graduated from high school in San Jose, and then I got an appointment to the Air Force Academy. So I went there in 1988. So I graduated from high school. I had maybe 2 weeks off, and then off I went to basic training in Colorado Springs.
Wow,
So
you had no time.
no time at all, not to enjoy the graduation or anything. So off the basic training, and um, it was a pretty tough time because they take everything you have, and you're not allowed to communicate with family for weeks at a time, and it was a challenge, but we got through it. Um, but I continued on at the academy. The summertime of my freshman year,
Hmm.
they actually offered a glider course for all freshmen. So I took that.
Okay.
For It's a 3-week course, and they taught us all the basics of how to fly a glider. And the end of the course was a solo flight in the glider. So that really
What?
got me going. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, Okay. And then the second flying class I had at the academy was the summer of my junior year, where we actually had a 3-week course to fly the Cessna 172. It's called a T-41 in Air Force terminology. But that was my first real experience on how flights are actually conducted, general aviation wise. So
Yeah.
that got me going. So I graduated from the Air Force Academy in 1992, and I did a non-flying job for my first assignment with Space Command. But during that assignment, I got notified that I was eligible for a pilot training slot. So in November of 1995, I left my first assignment in the Air Force to go to Vance Air Force Base in Oklahoma
Okay.
to do pilot training. Pilot training is a year-long course. So it went from November 95 to November 96. And everybody starts out in the same aircraft for the first half, and then you make a determination on what track you want to fly in. I decided that I wanted to do heavies, transport aircraft.
Mhm.
So I went from a T-37, which is a small multi-jet engine, to a Learjet, basically a beach aircraft, Learjet.
Okay.
Uh, Graduated in November 96, and immediately went to training to fly the KC-135. So I don't know
Wow.
if you're familiar with that, but the KC-135 is based on roughly a Boeing 707 platform, 4
Hmm.
engines,
Hmm.
and it does air-to-air refueling.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so my
So,
first flying assignment in the Air Force was flying the KC-135, and I flew that all over the world. So my first assignment was at MacDill Air Force Base, which is in Florida, just outside of Tampa. And then where did I go? I went to Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan. And then after my second KC-135 assignment, I got accepted to fly the C-32 out of Andrews Air Force Base, which is basically a Boeing 757. And the primary mission in that unit is VIP transport.
okay.
I had an opportunity for 5 years to carry some of the highest level political and military leaders all the way up to the vice president of the United.
Wow.
Yeah. So I
That's
did that.
impressive.
I did that from '04 to '09. And then I went back to the KC-135, went to McConnell Air Force Base out of Wichita, Kansas, and retired out of there. After I retired, I got picked up by FedEx, and I've been flying with them ever since. And with FedEx, I flew the MD-11, was my
Okay.
first aircraft. Then I went to the 757. I flew that for about 4 years, and I currently fly the Boeing 777. I'm a first officer there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big planes.
So,
777 is that's a pretty big plane.
yeah, it's the biggest one we've got. So it's all international bird. There are a few domestic stops, but mostly international. So you get used to going to different airfields around the world, and each country has different rules and regulations. So you got to be well versed in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting experience.
That's so cool, man. To be able to do that much in really a relatively short period of time.
Yeah,
And I was thinking when you said about flying, I was thinking, man, you started flying at 8 years old.
no,
Because I mean, you had the interest, but I mean, yeah, I guess your most bulk of your experience was, I guess, at the academy, and then afterwards for your
yeah,
assignment.
yeah. It's really, I really got into it when I was a kid. I was interested in the flying career, but honestly, I really didn't know what the pathways were to get there. It wasn't until my dad started encouraging me later to look at the Air Force Academy. That's where I started learning about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that process like? Because, like I said, I know it's not an easy process, and I know that this, I guess with any of the academies, whether it's Air Force or Army or Navy, they all have pretty pretty stringent requirements to get in. And I think you have to have. Well, can you share a little bit about that process? What is that process like?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, very high academic standards to even be considered for it. But you fill out an application just like any college university. Once you fill that out, it goes into a pot with everyone else that wants to go there, which is
Yeah.
several thousands of folks. But if you get selected from that pot, you actually go to a different level where a congressman will. They're always seeking to nominate a certain number of individuals from their particular area. They will
Hmm.
pick you out for interviews to determine whether you're eligible or worthy of a nomination. So I actually went to Congressman Norman Mineta. He's passed away now, but out of San Jose, California. Went to his office for an interview with his staff, and I'm sure there were several people that went in for an interview. But I was
Yeah.
selected from that group to go to the next level, and that level is basically, all the nominees are put together, and from that group, the Air Force Academy selects appointees. So it's an even smaller group out of that.
Oh, wow. So
So, yeah, yeah. So so I made it through several different levels there. Got the appointment through Normanetta. Got selected for the Air Force Academy, and off I went in '88. So yeah, it took probably about a year to complete the entire process. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So all
So
those who are watching, if you want to go down that route, it's not an easy route, but it's not an impossible route either. So make
yeah,
sure you get your grades together and and prepare accordingly, right? So that's
yeah.
that's cool. Yeah. So once you uh got out of the Air Force, and by the way, thank you for your service too.
Thanks.
Appreciate your sacrifice. And once you got out the Air Force and started working for a commercial carrier, I mean, what is that? What is your normal day like? I mean, is that because I mean you're flying international, and is it mainly international? Or are you doing domestic or a little bit of both?
It's mainly international. It's
International. Okay.
very rare that I do domestic every once in a while, but I typically I look at things in month time spans. I'll bid a schedule for a particular month, in a that when you bid that, it's they call them lines. You bid lines. If you are awarded a line, that line includes a series of trips that fills out your whole monthly schedule. So
Okay.
I typically will fly about 14 to 15 days out of any given month, and then the rest is time off. So internationally, we go to, I want to say, about 30 different locations around the world, and the layovers in those locations vary just based on what's going on at the time, what the
Yeah.
demand is, freight, this and that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's not always the same, I guess, and
Yeah.
part of why I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different each time. I mean,
Yeah.
do you have enough time in your layovers to see sightsee a little bit at all?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes the layovers are really short, 18 hours. So you barely have enough time to get something to eat and get rest before you're off again to the next location. But every once in a while, you'll get, 24, 36, even 48 hours for a
Okay.
layover. And yeah, I definitely take advantage of that if I have an opportunity. If I'm going to a location like Paris, I'm not going to stay in my hotel room for 48 hours. I'm going to go out and see things. So,
Yeah.
yeah, provide the opportunity to go and see the world a little bit.
Yeah. So out of the places you've been so far, I mean, what place has been the most, um, I guess, the coolest place to
Yeah,
visit?
I get that a lot. And,
Yeah.
it changes based on, what I'm looking for at the time. So, and I like to mix up my bids. So sometimes I'll prefer Asia. So I'll go to places in Japan or China, or even Australia, places like that. And once I get my fill of that, I'll switch it up and maybe go to Europe. You know,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it kind of depends. I have some favorite cities, Paris being one. Um, we also lay over in Liège, which is in Belgium, but our layover hotel is in the Netherlands, which is
Oh,
a
Netherlands.
yeah,
Okay.
great layover there. Um, let's see, in Europe, I like Cologne, Germany. Asia wise, I like most of Japan. I really enjoy going there. Sydney, Australia is a really great city. And even mainland China, there are a couple of good spots there. Maybe Shanghai is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
I like
cool. Yeah.
to mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
have a particular favorite spot. So,
Yeah. So how do you I've flown to Tokyo from Atlanta,
mhm,
and
that's a long,
that was a long flight.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
stir
Direct,
crazy, man. And the bad thing about it, I was sitting in coach, so I was kind of like all scrunched up, man. I couldn't hardly move. But I mean, how do you handle these? I mean, of course, you're concentrating and flying too. But I mean,
mhm.
how do you manage that long periods of just horizon or darkness, or I guess whenever you're flying? I mean, how do you manage that?
Yeah, it is a real challenge. You know, it, and the company does do a lot to help mitigate some of the circumstances. So, on a lot of the longer legs, they'll augment the crews. So you'll have, instead of having two pilots, you'll have four. Um, and that allows us to rotate. So we have two different teams of captain, first officer.
Yeah.
We can rotate in and out, so one group can get a rest while the other one is flying up front, and then we rotate, and we do that several times during a long leg. So on the longest ones, like for instance, Memphis, Dubai is probably about 14 and a half hours. We'll manage to get like two good rest periods in by the time we land, which is probably about 6 hours of sleep.
Okay.
So it's not too bad. I mean, we were able to, I say on the 777, I'm probably the most rested out of any airplane that I've been on at the company because of those rest periods.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching YouTube the other day, and there was a female pilot, African American female pilot, and she was kind of discussing, the long flights, and then I guess you guys have like a little, I don't want to say a bedroom, but a sleeping quarters, I guess, where she went in this kind of sleeping quarters, and then you sleep for your whatever hours, and you come out, and then you go back to duty. Is it something like that?
Yeah, we have a crew rest area and it has
Okay.
bunk beds in there.
Yeah,
So yeah, we go back and rest there.
that's pretty cool. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah.
So what are some of the qualities that are essential for being a successful pilot? I mean, what are the things that you experienced so far that have helped you
Yeah.
to be successful?
Um, some of the things from my experience, I would say, you got to stay curious, be willing to read up on the latest changes to the aviation industry, FAA rules, regulations, company policies, just different technologies that come about. That helps stay abreast of what's going on, staying ahead of the changes because this industry constantly changes. Um,
Yeah,
a big thing for us is to know how to establish priorities for yourself. And it becomes really evident when you have emergency or abnormal situations in the airplane. You have to be able to decide what's important, what's not important, what things I need to do right away, what things can I afford to wait to do.
yeah,
Um, Things like that. You want to be a good communicator. You got to be able to speak up when things aren't going the way they're supposed to go. Experience can kind of blind you to that fact. You kind of trust that the guy with more experience knows exactly what he's doing, but sometimes that's not the case. So you got to be willing to chime in when things don't look right. Um, for me, don't take yourself too seriously. I mean, it's a fun job. And
yeah,
if you get wrapped up into it, it makes something that's really fun become unnecessarily complicated. Um,
yeah,
it, I mean, it's really a great job when you step back and take a look at it. Yeah. What else? just use the resources that you have. That you got so much experience around you, so much knowledge. People come from different areas. They've done different things in their flying career, things that you can learn from. So tap into that knowledge. Don't be afraid to open up and talk and ask questions and maybe pass on something that you know to them. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
those are some of the things that help you thrive.
Yes, I mean that's good right there. I was thinking as you were saying that, out of all the time that you've been flying, what's been the most rewarding aspect of your career so far?
Yeah, well, I for me, I've never been a, 9 to 5 type guy. So the most rewarding thing is to have a schedule that changes all the time. Or I go on a long trip. When I come home, the time I have off is completely my time. So I can use that to pursue any hobbies that I've always wanted to do, things like that.
Yeah,
Right now, that's really fixing up things around the house that my wife has been waiting on me to fix.
big list, right?
Have a big to-do list, but once you get past that, you have time to pursue hobbies that maybe you've always wanted to pursue. I don't know if you can see behind me, but that's one of the things I'm trying to pick up there is drums.
What?
So
I was trying to figure out. Say, is that a drum set?
yeah, that's a drum set. Yeah. Can't say I'm much of an expert on it, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay, yeah, we have to get together because if you see behind me, I mean, I got my little rig, guitars and bass, and on the other end of my studios, my electronic kit over there.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we have to get together and jam, man.
yeah. I'll try not to disappoint you. But
No, you don't have to worry about that.
yeah.
That's
So yeah,
that's
no,
funny.
it's a great career, man. The views are amazing, the locations, a lot of times can be great. You see a
Yeah,
lot of things that normal people don't get to see.
yeah,
So yeah,
that's cool, man. Yeah, like I said, as a youngin, I wanted to be a pilot. Uh, and it just didn't work out that way. But I did start working on my private license, but then I had to
uh,
put it on hold. So I've flown to like a Cessna 152 before, so that
okay,
was that
yeah.
was fun. They say that's true flying.
Believe it
But
or
yeah,
not, that is because once you
yeah,
get the Boeing 777, everything is so automated. There's a lot of artificial feel to things. It's not the same as just regular stick and rudder flying. Yeah,
yeah. It's that fly by wire, they say, so to speak, fly
yeah.
by wire. Yeah,
Fly by wire, lots of redundancies, this and that. So
yeah,
it's a different type of flying.
yeah. That's cool, man. So with the lately, it's been a lot of things in the news about the airline industry, from
Mhm.
mishaps and challenges and fuel and all sorts of crazy stuff. What's been your challenge? What's been some of the challenges you've been facing? Uh, you know, working as a pilot.
As a pilot, and it's always been a challenge for us ever since I've been flying, is this compromise between efficiency and safety. And you see it a lot on the private side where the company wants to save money, but it may, unwillingly be introducing things that are a safety issue.
Yeah,
So you're constantly on the watch for that. Um, and you really got to pay attention to, when a new rule or regulation comes down, know how that impacts you on the flight line and speak up when it doesn't make sense. That's always a challenge for us there. Um, Industry wise, um, the business is pretty fickle, especially on the passenger side of the house.
yeah,
Things ebb and flow pretty dramatically. So it lends to this like feaster, I call it feast or famine type of environment. When things are really good, things are good. When things are bad, wow, watch out. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
there's always looming back there the threat of furlough, reorganization, things like that. And then also looming way in the background is the impact of automation, what that's going to do to the pilot force. So, all those things are kind of swirling around in our heads. and we're processing that on a daily basis. But yeah, I would say those are some of our biggest challenges and concerns as pilots. From my perspective, you ask 10 pilots, you probably get 10 different answers,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's what I would say.
yeah. I mean, I guess if you think about it, like the automation kicking in, AI, and
Hmm.
and companies are always trying to find ways to save money. It's kind of a
Yeah.
crazy time right now. And then I would imagine too that are there many. I mean, of course, if you go through the academies or get training in the armed forces,
Hmm.
you can get your skill set there. But is there a challenge with getting qualified pilots now? Because it seems like this younger generation is a little bit different. They're not into things like that. It seems like they all want to be YouTube stars and
Uh,
they want to be social media stars.
yeah, you do notice that there's not as many people interested in the flying career as there used to be.
Yeah,
Yeah, those avenues. But in my experience, the level of experience and skill that I see with the pilot force, like at my company and probably other companies, is really good so far. Now the way we train has changed a lot over the years, but it remains to be seen whether that has a positive or negative impact on the force.
yeah.
Uh, they lean more toward simulator training versus hands-on in the airplane type training. And so I was kind of a part of that transition. When I first started flying with the Air Force, everything was hands-on. You didn't do much at all in the simulator. Now most things are done in the simulator, and your first um, real experience is your first commercial flight out there on the flight line in a lot of cases.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
So I guess
So
he's
yeah, I don't know what impact that has on the pilot force, but it is a change.
yeah. So I was checking out this statistic, and it said, I got it off the internet, so it must be true. No, I'm just kidding.
Got it.
It said something like this. It says when you hear the this is your captain speaking on an airline flight in the United States. It says more than 90% of the time, the speaker is a white male, and just 3.4% of the U.S. pilots are black, 2.2 are Asian descent, and a paltry 0.5% are Hispanic or Latino. And it says women make up just 4.6%.
Mhm.
So how can people people of color get into the industry? I mean, what are some of the options? I mean, of course, you can try and get on with the Air Force Academy or maybe the Navy or even maybe even the Army. But if you don't take that route, I mean, how can you have a career in that?
Yeah. And I'm not an expert in the civilian route because, like you said, I took the military route.
Yeah,
The civilian road is definitely a pathway to get there. Um, However, it requires a lot more of your financial sacrifice.
yeah. That's what I
It's
was gonna get into, man, because it ain't cheap.
Yeah, it's really expensive to fly nowadays. So, I honestly don't know how people are managing to get that done. Um, it is a challenge. It is a challenge. If you have the opportunity to do it through the military, and I'm probably biased in saying this, that's probably the easiest route,
Yeah,
financially speaking. For our communities, it is a challenge because the knowledge base isn't out there. We don't have the corporate knowledge that other groups have. So the challenge is getting the word out. Like I even came from a military family, and I didn't realize that flying was a possibility until I went to the Air Force Academy. And thank goodness my dad pushed that. But without that influence, I don't think I would have ever come across that. So I guess the challenge is getting um, more access to that information to people in communities where I came up in. And I considered myself lucky. There's nothing special about my abilities or skills. I just was in the right place at the right time in a
yeah,
lot of ways.
yeah. I know in the Atlanta area. I mean, they're at the what is it? The Fulton County um, Airport. There's a program. I don't know if they're still doing it called ACE. My kids, when they were younger, my two boys were a part of that, where they kind of exposed young African American males on, flying and just becoming or considering the
Mhm.
option of getting into the aviation industry. So that was pretty cool. My kids were really interested in it at first,
Yeah.
and I wonder if that program is still around. But yeah, like you said, it's
It's,
you know if you decided to take it the private route, it's going to be super expensive. So the next best option would be is like you said to go through either the Navy or the Air Force
yeah.
or the armed services to get your experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough, but
It
I guess
is.
it's doable.
It is. It is.
So as we get ready to close out, you what advice would you give aspiring young people that are really interested in you know the aviation industry, in particular, becoming a pilot? What would you? And you mentioned you touched on it a little bit beforehand, but any other advice you would give them in terms of
Yeah,
preparing?
I would kind of be reiterating some things, but I would say talk to as many people as you can in the industry. Like I was saying, there's such a breadth of knowledge. People come from all over, have done different things, and just kind of see what angle you want to take in the industry. Because what you think initially you want to pursue may not be the right path for you, and the
Yeah,
only way to know is to hear other people's experiences. So, and trust me, people in our industry, especially pilots, like to talk about what they do. So I'm always available for questions. So I love to talk about what I do and maybe give a little bit of advice. Granted, I don't know everything about the industry, but I can point you in a good direction. Give you some helpful advice. Um, you got to stay hungry. Realize that there are lots of ups and downs in the industry, both in and out of the cockpit, when you're pursuing these certifications and experience. So you got to stick with it no matter what. Just have faith in yourself. Um, what else? Just be ready to deal with the many different challenges you're going to have. I mean, that's just part of what we do. Even when we fly, we have challenges that are on a shorter time scale that we have to deal with. So just get into the mindset of how to deal with those things. You
yeah,
know, um,
being a
just
good problem solver.
yeah, very good problem solver. You gotta keep a level head, know how to establish priorities, and follow your checklists. Really, and important thing I think is to be willing to accept criticism. If you can't accept criticism in this business, you're gonna have a rough time. We're constantly in an environment where we're being evaluated on what we do. And if you can't accept feedback, it's going to be a rough time.
Yeah, you said that one time. I was coming in from somewhere, and it was a normal, not a crazy weather day. It was a nice day, and the pilot came in really hard, man. I mean, it was a hard landing.
It
I
happened.
wanted to go up to the pilot and say, "What's up, man? What happened?" That's what I really wanted to say,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But just imagine on every flight, especially when you're carrying all those passengers, they're all evaluating what you're doing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to hide it.
yeah, but I mean, I admire you guys, man, because I don't fly like you fly, but I mean, there have been times when I've flown where the weather was just not that great,
Mhm.
going through thunderstorms and some bad turbulence and so forth, and I can only imagine when you guys are experiencing something, it being cool, calm, and collective, and I really admire that because I'm like sweating in the back. It's like, Lord, as soon as we get on the ground, I'm going straight to church. I'm gonna be praying for the rest of the day.
And, well, to be honest with you, sometimes we sweat too, but we never let anybody see us sweat.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it's
yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. Because when you guys start sweating, then I'm gonna have a heart attack.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But both of us, we've seen it all, so
Yeah,
it takes a lot to really rattle us.
yeah. Well, sweet, man. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some of your experience and your wisdom and your career on God Dreamers today, man. It was very enlightening and refreshing. You know, kind of brought up memories of me wanting to fly as a youngin, as I keep saying. But I'm kind of living my life, my unresolved life through you today. So I appreciate that.
Well, I'll try to make you proud. I just want to put out there,
Your
you know,
earpiece
have
falls
any
out,
listeners?
right?
You still there? You still there?
I'm here. I hear.
Yeah, I just wanted to put out there if there are any listeners that are interested in the flying career and want to reach out to me, you have my information. Um,
Okay.
put them in touch with me. I'd be more than willing to answer any questions that they may have.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yeah. So yeah. So thank you again. And thank you guys for hanging out with us on this edition of God Dreamers. If you want to know more about what we do, you know, feel free to reach out to me through our YouTube page or social media. And if you have any ideas about any other episodes that you would like to see, you know, please let me know, because I'm always open to hearing what you guys have to say and some of the things that are going on in your lives. So until next time, you guys take care, and thanks again for being on God Dreamers today. And so God bless, and we'll see you later.
All right, see ya.
And in the record.